Everybody, welcome to another edition of The Drop. Greg Wyshynski in Sunrise, Florida. Arda, Öcal in Bristol, Connecticut. We are here with you after every Stanley Cup Final game until Lord Stanley's mug has been awarded. So
like two more games.
It feels like it, dude. It certainly feels like it. It feels like this is going to be a sweep, and it's going to be a dominant sweep unless the Oilers can turn things around at home. But let's break down game two. Why are we even saying this? The Florida Panthers dominated in many categories in game two, including the scoreline. They once again win the game by 3 goals. 4-1 your final. The third period, particularly dominant. Greg, the Florida Panthers are the 5th best team in Stanley Cup playoff history in the third period in differential. They're a plus 17. That's 5th best we've ever seen. How is this possible? Why are they so good in the third period?
It's defense, man. It all starts with defense for them. And as the game goes on and they pick up more confidence and they can control pace, they just continue it on to the third period. They have the utmost confidence that things are going to go right from in the final frame. But you know, the thing for me in this series right now is I'm shocked that we're in a moment where Evan Rodrigues and Niko Mikkola are outscoring Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Zach Hyman combined at this point when it comes to goals. Like, that's the story. You know, one of the things that people kept on telling me when I bravely predicted the Edmonton Oilers would win in 6, which, by the way, mathematically can still happen, is that the Florida Panthers' depth was going to be too much for the Edmonton Oilers to handle. And what we've seen in this series is the Oilers desperately hoping that their stars can make a play. And they haven't made a play on the power play, which has gone over, and they haven't been able to score a goal at even strength. And the Florida Panthers using all 4 lines and relying on their depth and having confidence in all of these guys to pull ahead. And in particular, you know, I said this before the series, like the Oilers don't have an Anton Lundell. You know, they have a McDavid and a Draisaitl, but they don't have a Lundell. And what we saw in this game, in game 2, is him making plays, you know, up and down the ice, at least on 2 of the goals. And that's just indicative of the depth advantage the Panthers have. And the reason they're up 2-0.
Yeah, to that third period point, Evan Rodrigues, as you mentioned, scored 2 of those goals. And I think he's the first Panthers player in Stanley Cup Final history with a multi-goal game.
Well, let's pause on the Evan thing for a second, because this is what we're talking about. Think about the game, the 2 games that this guy has had. Okay, in game 1, scores a critical goal, great pass by Sam Bennett, increases their lead to 2-0. Enormously important goal. In this game, he scores the game-winning goal. And then adds an insurance goal in the third period. But he also does something early in the game, Arda, that's the type of play that changes the trajectory of a game and potentially a series, where he lays a hit on Darnell Nurse on the forecheck, 4 shifts into Nurse's game. Nurse comes away grabbing his side. He leaves the ice for the trainer's room. He comes back. He plays 2 more shifts in the game, completely ineffective. But what does that do? That means that Evan Bouchard has to play over 30 minutes tonight. And that means Evan Bouchard is gassed in the third period when he makes one of the most egregious turnovers of the entire postseason, putting the puck on Rodrigues' stick blade so he can score the game-winning goal. And then Bouchard gets victimized again on the penalty kill as Lundell hits Rodrigues for the all-important third goal in this game, which, by the way, breaks the Edmonton Oilers penalty kill streak. I think it was 43 penalty kills straight, the 3rd longest streak in playoff history. And so that Rodrigues hit on Nurse was sort of a domino effect to a lot of the other things that happened in this game.
Yeah, might have been 34, but I believe the record was 39.
I mean, you know, 33, 34. Most of the numbers I said are correct.
You were thinking of Austin Matthews, that picture that surfaced this afternoon at the pool where his hair slicks back. So speaking of setting the tone, by the way, for the second game in a row, we had a team score on their first shot, and that was a muffin. Sergei Bobrovsky lets in this goal. We haven't seen him scored on 5-hole. I think all playoffs, or definitely this. You know what I mean? Like, it's been a long time since we've seen him being scored on 5-hole. Most players score on him high.
It was the first 5-hole goal he had given up all postseason. I was asking our mutual friend Brian Boucher, who I saw here at the game, my theory, and he wouldn't approve my theory, but it's still, I think, a good theory. And that's that Sergei Bobrovsky obviously thought that Mattias Ekholm was going to pass that puck to Leon Draisaitl. Did not think in a million years that Ekholm was going to shoot the puck, and then Ekholm puts it right through his 5-hole to give the Oilers a 1-0 lead, which I thought was a pretty big deal at the time. It turned out not to be in the game.
Let's talk about that, because the Oilers had the momentum there. They score on their first shot of the game. They needed a big start. They got the big start, but then the Panthers score 4 unanswered goals in the rest of the game. It was a chippy game. It was a physical game, but the Oilers just couldn't find the back of the net and find quality chances other than a McDavid breakaway and a couple chances here and there. But this was really the Panthers' game.
It was, but like you said, let's go to chippy, because I think that's what the people want to hear is the chippy. There were 2 plays in this game by the Oilers that undoubtedly are reviewed by the Department of Player Safety, and we'll see what comes of it. First of all, let's deal with the earlier one, the Warren Foegele kneeing penalty. This was an interesting one because the pushback from Oilers coach Chris Knobloch after the game was that if you penalize this, then the hit that Sam Bennett had on Evan Bouchard earlier in the first period should have also been a 5-minute major. I don't know if I agree or disagree. His whole take is that it was one of those plays where Foegele couldn't get out of the way from a player that was changing his skating position, and he was sort of a victim of circumstance on the play. I'm not sure how you saw it, Arda.
It looked okay. Like, some people were describing it as he missed the body, so he was just trying to adjust to make some sort of contact. To me, it kind of looked like he was deliberately knee hunting.
Yeah.
With the way that he positioned his leg. You tweeted about in the knee penalty, if it's a major, it's an automatic game misconduct. I believe you put that on Twitter. So a lot of people were like, oh, it shouldn't have been a game misconduct. Well, that's automatic in this situation if it's a major.
If it's a major penalty. Now, the thing that Knobloch said after the game that was a little bit hinky, because it was off of my question about his feelings on whether there would be supplemental discipline for this or the Leon Draisaitl hit we're about to talk about. He said, quote, if you're going to hit a guy and then the guy moves out of the way, it's pretty tough to change where your feet are. My opinion and their opinion will be a lot different, but I don't see much difference in those 2 plays. And then he said the difference between the 2 plays was that Bouchard got up right away and their guy, which was Luosterainen, didn't, which I think, and then he sort of just trailed off after that. So reading between the lines, it does feel like Chris Knobloch feels that there may have been a little bit of, if not embellishment, emphasis by the Panthers player, who, by the way, came back in the first period and ended up playing over 14 minutes in the game.
Sasha Barkov did not return after being hit by Leon Draisaitl. Speaking of quotes, Paul Maurice said about the hit, quote, "This isn't the Oprah Winfrey show. My feelings don't matter." Paul Maurice continuing to be an absolute gem in front of a microphone at press conferences. Barkov left his feet. His elbow hit Barkov's face. I mean, look, if we're trying to get these kind of hits out of the game, that should be much more than a minor.
Yeah, and it was only a minor penalty for roughing. It was a pretty blatant play. It looked like on the reverse angle, him leaving his skates, his elbow making contact with Barkov's jaw. The Panthers players, for the most part, Matthew Tkachuk, others, deferred on it as far as whether the hit should be suspended. There was a lot of other talk about how the team rallied around Barkov not being there. Obviously, Rodrigues scores his power play goal on the ensuing power play after the Draisaitl penalty. This is a tough one, man. Our colleague PK Subban came down with the banhammer, pretty much said that it's a hit that you probably might have to suspend for, especially if Barkov's hurt. And I don't disagree. I don't envy the position the Department of Player Safety is in right now. because that is a hit to the head. It's a nasty elbow. Chris Knobloch kind of framed it as maybe like a forecheck gone awry, but it doesn't change the circumstances of the play. And if Barkov is hurt and he didn't play the rest of the game, and Paul Maurice's comportment when talking about Barkov was not very sunny, if they lose their captain, then I don't quite know how you justify not suspending Draisaitl for game 3. And again, I don't envy the position they're in. The team is down 0-2 in the series. Their entire postseason life depends on whether or not Leon Draisaitl plays in game 3, most likely. But he put himself in a position where he might not be able to because of the hit on Barkov.
Yeah, it was late in the third period, so even if it was a concussion protocol thing, that would have. Ray Ferraro talked about this on the broadcast. It could have taken 10 to 15 minutes to even get through the protocol. Maybe there wouldn't have been enough time to return. Paul Maurice did say, "Look, I'm not holding a player back. We were down 2-1 at that situation, so we don't know exactly what the situation is right now."
I don't think something will happen to Foegele. Like, I think the Luosterainen coming back in the game, the 5-minute major being what it is, like I think that's probably enough for player safety. This one's a little trickier, and it's a star player on a star player, and it's a hit, and again, a potentially suspendable hit at a time when you might be determining the series for the Oilers if you suspend him. I mean, that's what they have to live with.
Yeah, we're gonna wait and see what happens with Draisaitl, and also wait and see if Sasha Barkov plays next game, or what the extent of the possible injuries might be. We don't know anything at the moment. Couple more things. At the end of this game, I'll be honest, my first thought was this could be a sweep. They go back to Edmonton. Things continue like this. The Florida Panthers look terrific in game 2. Do the Oilers even have an answer at this point? And again, we've talked a lot about Stuart Skinner. None of this is on Stuart Skinner. He hasn't played bad. He hasn't played bad, Wish. So like, what does it feel like to you? Where are you on if I were to make a sweep meter, where are you on the sweep meter here?
I think they have a counterpunch in game 3. I do. I mean, obviously, if Draisaitl doesn't play, it changes the math on it a little bit. But I do think that when you get in front of that crowd at Edmonton, it's going to be chaos. They're going to get some matchups that they want. The health of Barkov is a big factor in this thing too. I feel like they're not going to go down without at least a fight and maybe a win. I mean, I do think that at this point, when you look at this series, you could see it ending in 5, with the Panthers winning the cup. But I do expect the Oilers might have one more left in them in game 3. But we'll see. I think for the Oilers, the point of frustration right now is that you felt a hell of a lot better after game 1 than you do game 2 with the way that you played, and also with the way the Panthers played. They all said after game 1, hey, listen, the Panthers have another level to get to as well. And boy, did they get to it in game 2. They played outstanding defensively in game 2.
And Connor McDavid even said the Panthers found another level and we didn't match it. Food for thought. Speaking of stats, there have only been. Oh, go ahead, Wish.
I want to say one thing, dude, that we didn't talk about before, which is another goal that was scored in this game.
Okay.
By Niko Mikkola. We didn't talk about this. We have to.
Almost own goal / he scores this ridiculous goal.
This dude was being forechecked by Evander Kane, did a spinorama trying to go D to D on a pass, and ended up shooting the puck on his own goaltender. And he had a great line after the game saying that it's a good thing that Bob was awake. And he was. And he makes the save, and then skates. He's shaking his head. He can't believe he did that. Skates down the ice, takes the pass from Lundell, and scores the game-tying goal after in the second period after the Ekholm goal.
Incredible shot, by the way. Incredible shot.
Dude's on fire. He also had the incredible line earlier, 24 hours earlier, talking about how you handled McDavid and Draisaitl, and saying, well, but we have a Bobby. It's like the Avengers. We have a Hulk. We have a Hulk. Low key having a great couple of days here. But that thing was an absolute adventure in this game.
Panthers defenseman, 2 goals in the series. Draisaitl, McDavid, 0. Since the Stanley Cup Final went to a 7-game format in 1939, only 5 teams have ever been down 2-0 in the Cup Final and have gone on to win the Stanley Cup. 91% of the teams that are in the Florida Panthers position in history have gone on to raise Lord Stanley's mug.
One other stat we
wish,
should mention.
yes,
No high danger shot attempts for the Edmonton Oilers at 5-on-5 in game 2. Think about that for a second. This is a team with McDavid, Draisaitl, and a guy named Zach Hyman, whose only job is to get high danger shot attempts. And they had 0 goose egg in game 2. That is the Panthers playing incredible defense, keeping them to the perimeter, keeping it clean in front of Bobrovsky, who we should also mention. Bob is now the absolute favorite to win the Conn Smythe if they win the cup. 2 great games in the final for him. He was there when they needed him, gave up the softie, but it was there when they needed him. It's just super impressive what?
I will say that McDavid did have a breakaway, so I mean that's kind of a high danger chance, but he did have a trailer. He did have Kachuk on him, so maybe that doesn't count as high danger.
Doesn't count. According to Natural Stat Trick, no high danger shot attempts on the game.
Fair enough. Do you know what I think doesn't count, Greg Wyshynski? Calling the Florida Panthers America's team. Why is there a t-shirt, man? Why am I seeing on social media in the team store a t-shirt that says the Florida Panthers are America's team? Please explain this to me.
I hate it. I don't understand it. Their goaltender is Russian. Their captain is Finnish. I understand that it's USA versus Canada, and at the end of the day, yes, we're all hoping as Americans that Canada's drought continues. That stretches back to 1993, but by no means are the Florida Panthers America's team. But that's just one t-shirt, Arda, that you'll find in the Panthers team store, an incredible new facility that's full of weird and wacky things that I toured this week. Panthers Land, powered by the FLA Team Shop, is part of the Panthers' new practice facility in Fort Lauderdale.
It's like we planned it this way, right? Like go to the Stanley Cup and open up this beautiful facility. People, I think, are going to want to be here in January, February versus something like Quebec.
Now, I love a team store. It reminds me of comic book shops where fanatics can find all the geeky and weirdo things that normie department stores won't carry. It's a place for hockey fans to find their own and find what they really need in life. Like a gold chain with Matthew Tkachuk's face on it. Let's talk about what's inside this place, starting with a ridiculous amount of Sergei Bobrovsky shirts, the Bobby shirt, the Shrine to the Bobbery, and Bob, except the O is a red light crossed out. The clothes here are actually awesome. Best collection of women's hockey shirts I've ever seen, including old school logos and reverse retro logos. Kids' shirts are awesome too. I mean, every 8-year-old needs a shirt calling Matthew Tkachuk a rat. Speaking of rats, they're everywhere in this store. There's rats on gold chains. There's rat stuffed animals. Above the stuffed panthers, above Simba, I guess. I don't know. Most importantly, they sell plastic rats to throw on the ice. They sell for $5 a pop, and they've sold upwards of 150 of them on a game day. From rats to hats. Again, insanely cool collection. Military hats and old school hats and stylish hats, trucker hats, hats that say Florida or FLA. This hat that has laces on it looks really stupid. But they've got big loud hats too, and weird tropical hats. And they have hats that look like the Max from Saved by the Bell. But this hat sucks. And so does this shirt. The store also sells candles that we assume smell like Gustav Forsling. And a llama, or an alpaca, with a great big giant hat. And also $450 Florida Panthers bicycles that you could ride out of the store. Finally, if you absolutely hate Canada and never want them to win another cup, please note the Panthers believe they're America's team. Betsy Ross, eat your heart out. All right, so lots of fun things for sale in there. The alpaca with the giant hat, I think, was a favorite of mine. But let's do some headlines from around the NHL, Arda.
All right, Dateline, GM of the Year, Jim Nill winning the 2023-24 Jim Gregory General Manager of the Year award. Back-to-back winner. Dallas Stars didn't get the result they wanted in the postseason, but a lot of people called them the most complete team on many nights in the NHL this season. How worthy was Jim Nill winning this award, Wish?
Oh, he's very worthy. I mean, the Chris Tanev deal was great for them. It's a well put together team. I just have kind of a problem with this award being given out on a night in which the third place general manager, Bill Zito, watched his team win a second game of the Stanley Cup Final, watched two players that he signed as free agents last summer, Rodrigues and Mikkola, score the goals in this victory. Due respect to Jim Nill, I think Bill Zito probably deserves this award this year again.
So Bill Zito third, Chris Drury, Rangers fourth,
For
Ken
what?
Holland. Yeah.
For what? Why is Chris Drury fourth for this award? They gave it to they vote on it after the second round of the playoffs. It's a panel of executives from the NHL and broadcast and print media. What did Chris Drury do to earn fourth place in GM of the year? He traded for two guys that didn't move the needle in Wenberg and Roslovic, and the rest of the team was basically the same damn team they had last year. I don't understand. And also the other thing I don't understand, Arda, Ken Holland being eighth. This man gets no respect. Like either he's just there as a figurehead, or he actually has an active role behind the scenes. Do we give him credit for the coaching change? I think they probably should. Do we give him credit for building out a decent supporting cast around Connor and Leon? I think that we should. Eighth place, no respect for the man.
Yeah, unfortunate. Dateline, Caps unfriendly.
Oh my
According
God.
to Elliot Friedman, the Washington Capitals have laid a dark cloud in the hockey analytics and community at large, buying Cap Friendly, the website that was very thorough with their cap information, salary information, a very useful resource for hockey fans. The site will go dark in July. The positive of this, of course, is that the great people that put the website together are going to get paid and possibly jobs with the Capitals.
Yep.
But for us hockey folk, back to the dark ages we go, Wish, as it pertains to salaries.
Well, we still have Puckpedia, who hopefully can continue on this tradition and gain the sourcing that Cap Friendly had, and hopefully has some of the tools in their back pocket that are as fun as the ones that are on Cap Friendly. But the important thing to remember here is that this is the evolution of online hockey resources. When we lost General Fanager, then came Cap Geek. When we lost Cap Geek, then came Cap Friendly. Now we'll have other things that fill in the blanks here. When the big stat site goes away, then the new stat site moves up. I have to believe that we're always going to have some sort of a salary cap resource at our fingertips. And I hope to believe that, because otherwise it's going to give you a lot harder to do this job. I don't want it to be any harder than it already is.
Absolutely. Dateline goalie carousel. Wish everyone needs a goalie. Joining the Devils, Leafs, Kings, and Hurricanes in the market for a goaltender are the Ottawa Senators. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, according to the Ottawa Citizen, Sens GM Steve Staios has held talks with the Boston Bruins about Linus Ullmark. A league executive told the paper that the Senators have been one of the most aggressive teams chasing Calgary Flames netminder Jacob Markstrom. So again, Ullmark, Markstrom, maybe John Gibson, potentially UC Saros, so we don't know for sure. It is going to be one of the most fascinating summers I can remember when it comes to the amount of high-profile goalies that could be available and the amount of teams that are chasing them. Who will ante up the most? Who will make the right deal, and where do these guys actually want to go? I mean, Markstrom, I think, has a little bit of control here as well, as far as where he'd like to play, and same thing with Ullmark. It's going to be a real interesting situation, as all of these teams are now very much riding the goalie carousel.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting off-season, and it'll be interesting to see if the Oilers can bounce back in game number 3 as the series shifts to Edmonton.
You didn't tell me your thoughts, man. As I said, I think the Oilers have a counterpunch. I think that crowd's going to fuel them. We'll see what happens with Draisaitl, but what do you think? Are the Oilers cooked?
I do think the Oilers are cooked. They are going to need a strong game 3 to get back into this series. I could see it going 5, but the way that the first two games transpired, with the Oilers throwing the kitchen sink at the Panthers and losing 3-0, then the Panthers coming back strong with a heck of a response after being scored on the first shot on goal by their opposition, and then coming back with 4 unanswered goals. Those are 2 emphatic victories that couldn't be more polar opposite to me, Wish. And if that's like, to me, that is the signal of a team that just doesn't have an answer. Now the Oilers have to dig really deep, man, and they're going to need their stars to shine when those passionate fans are yelling and screaming in Edmonton and then in the moss pit, because this is not good for them.
Yeah, and like you kind of inferred right there, man, the thing that's very disturbing if you're Edmonton is there is not a single scintilla of doubt in the minds of the Florida Panthers right now. You maybe could have created some if you played as well as you did in game 1, but you didn't, and they played even better, and now they can smell it. Now they can taste it. Now they're flexing their fingers to get a grip on the chalice, and I don't know what the Oilers can do to put a little doubt in their minds, because this is a confident Florida Panthers team now.
So Thursday at 8 Eastern on ABC will be game 3. After that, you will find us here on The Drop, your official ESPN post-game show. Final thoughts. You're going to be traveling over 2,500 miles, buddy. No direct flights. Actually, do you have a charter? Do you have an official PJ that will take you from Sunrise to Edmonton?
You know me. There is zero chance the NHL would let me on their charter. I will be connecting through the great state of Minnesota. I will probably hit the Prince store while I'm in the airport, and then hopefully make it up there. The Panthers are actually staying down here in Sunrise, by the way, until Wednesday. They're leaving Wednesday to go up to the game, which I thought was interesting. Interesting in the sense that apparently there might be some weather coming through, so maybe they want to change those travel plans. But obviously with the 2 days between games, a lot will be discussed as far as Draisaitl, Barkov. A lot will be discussed about can the Oilers rally in this series, and then on Thursday we'll see where this thing goes. But yeah, a lot of travel coming up for your boys and girls in the media.
So we'll see you on Thursday. Shout out to our producers throughout the Cup Final, Kenny Legan, Justin Cloutier, for putting this all together for us. Thank you for watching on the NHL and ESPN YouTube, or listening wherever you get your audio podcasts. We will see you after Game 3 on Thursday.
Take care.